listen closely. Everything is curable. We're in a new era, remembering what the earth has been whispering, shifting from conventional medicine's quick fixes beyond prescriptions. This is our journey back to the intelligence of the body. Welcome to Beyond the White. So today we're going to be talking about piercing the veil. And joining us is Sue Greenwald. Sue is natural intuitive all her life. She is an author and founder of the Empowered Light Holistic Expo. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that expo later. But she's also the voice behind the Awakened Stories YouTube and blog channels. She has spent decades blending her intuitive insights with grounded, practical wisdom, and also on helping us tap in a little bit more into deciphering between our intuition, our inner guidance, our inner wisdom that's always there for the taking, versus the chatter, the noise, the deceptive downloads that sometimes we may have. There's guidance, and we have to learn to decipher between guidance that comes from light and guidance that comes from shadow. So here we are with the wonderful Sue Greenwald. Hello, Sue.
How are you today?
Welcome. Excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited too.
So tell us a little bit about what that was like as a child when you realized that you had this inner guidance, that you were capturing information that most of us aren't necessarily tapped into when we're born or when we're little or even as we're growing up. Is that like?
Well, again, back then, and especially being a child, you don't know what empathic or intuitive mean. Like no one talked about that back then. I would walk into a room and I would like, okay, something's going on, like, and I would back out, like, get out now. You know what I mean? I avoided trouble that way. I used the ability to my advantage, to be honest. If there was something going on, I went elsewhere, or I knew how to navigate it better, right? And again, I didn't realize what it was until I got older. And then I started reading about psychic abilities. And that's when I started to realize, oh, I have some of that. And so I started becoming more interested in learning more. I wanted to know more about feeling of peace, feeling grounded and connected. And then I started learning more about meditation. And like I said, that led to nutrition and then other spiritual topics.
You know, I trained in yoga with with a Hindu nun. And I did that later in life. For the longest, I resisted wanting to practice yoga because I was too busy keeping busy not to delve inward, right? So it was like the kickboxing and the spinning and anything that was high-powered, fast movement, nothing that would take me inward, because that meant I had to really kind of
slow down,
slow down, listen, heal, the stuff that I wasn't really ready to do. And I hear that sometimes in practice from people. It's like, oh, yoga, no, I'm not going to yoga. I can't meditate. But when people are ready to heal, it seems like that they're ready and more drawn to practice the quieter forms of, whether it's movement or ancient practices that really require us to connect with our soul, that really require us to start getting the pain and the trauma and the all the stuff that's just weighing us
posture
down.
Called Shavasana, where you lay on the floor, relaxed for let's say 5 minutes. Oh my golly. So the first couple of classes I did Shavasana, I'm like, in my head, like, come on, like, how much longer? How much longer? Well, the third class, like I said, it took me 3 classes. The third class, I actually got into it and I relaxed. And when I got done with the class, I was like, what is this feeling? I literally puzzled that out for several days. I'm not lying. And then I realized that's the feeling of being relaxed. And that led to meditation. It takes a while to detach from your body. But once you do, you get to this zone or this place where you feel connected with the universe or you feel solitude, whatever it is you feel. And then when you come back, you feel so much more centered and together than you did when you left, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's, I think sometimes people think, well, you got to do meditation for a long time. But the truth is that as you practice quieting the mind, it could take seconds and you could be there for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, and accomplish that where you really feel that you're connected with everything and you change your frequency, right? As you go into that deeper state, it's like you feel lighter, you feel just like everything opens up and everything is possible.
I would tell people one breath can change your life. One slow, deep, relaxing breath can change your life. It changes your state of being. All right. So when you're all tense and you just take a nice deep breath and relax for a second, same situation, same things on the external world, but you can handle it better. Right. So yoga has been a catalyst in my life. So people that are viewing this, do you have to do yoga? No. Do you have to learn to meditate for 6 or 8 hours? No. You can do it your way. Everyone is different. So one thing will appeal to me, but it may not appeal to you. And you have to just find that thing that, allows you to tune in, we'll call it to your higher being, to your soul, to the we are all oneness of the world, right? Whatever you want to call it. You'll get the answers when you're relaxed and you can tune in like that. And
years ago, someone told me, you've got a lot of noise in your head. If you did something with your hands, like paint or crochet or, garden, something where you're tuning stuff out because you're focused on something, whether it's repetitive or not. And so I took up painting, and I realized that during my, time painting, everything else disappeared.
right.
And I just got quiet. And so, I encourage people to just start doing things that you enjoy, that give you joy, that bring you peace, whether it's painting for me or gardening or writing or, knitting or working on a car, whatever that is, that it's your quiet time. And as you were saying, Sue, observe your breath. You don't have to go and do some long meditation, but just slow down your breathing.
Right.
And you couple that with maybe paying attention to your body where you have pain and sending signals that you relax it, you might just get rid of that pain. I got rid of my menstrual cramps this is back in California, sitting in a Kaiser Permanente waiting for the receptionist to show up. I realized that I was going to start my monthly, and then all of a sudden I started sweating and the cramps set in and my period came down. And I just did the slow breathing, relaxing my body, starting from the toes. And by the time I got to my pelvic region, the cramps stopped. And the coolest thing was that I never got cramps again, ever.
That's amazing.
It's powerful stuff. Breathwork is powerful medicine. It's powerful medicine. Now, kind of along those lines, because the more you delve inward, the more you become in tuned, right? Your senses open up, and you're a natural intuitive. So you've already got hyper spidey senses, right? So because we've got so much working against us, unfortunately, we've got a lot of fake narratives, we've got a lot of belief systems that are really creating more of fear, more codependence, creating karma instead of really freeing us from karma. You think the minute we're in a cycle of fear or guilt or anger or, judgment, we're creating more karma for ourselves. So how did you go about, I would imagine, deciphering between messages and intuition or information that truly was of light versus shadow messages? Because I truly believe that a lot of, even in the spiritual realm, the dogma, the beings, that there's a lot of shadow beings that are disguised as light beings, right? How did you decipher between those? It's like, how do you decipher between what is of light source, God, if you will, and man or darkness or shadow that's trying to keep us trapped and down?
Right. I call those the tricksters because they're very prevalent. So if someone has intuitive abilities, which really we all do, but if someone is using those abilities, or let's say they're doing readings or this or that, I'm very careful of that. Now, I wasn't way back when, but for me, okay, and everyone has different abilities, okay? Some people hear voices, some people see visions, some people get a knowing, or like a combination of those modalities. For me, it's a knowing. All right. And sometimes I will hear, sometimes I'll see it. I can't really control the way it comes across. But for me, the message has to be positive. All right. So let's say those of the light, God, the angels, whoever you want to call it, your spirit guides, they will never, ever, ever, ever to infinity be negative in any way. All right. So if you're doing something, let's say you're doing something on the wrong path. Okay. Let's just say you're doing the wrong thing. They're not going to say, oh, you're going to fail. You're doing the wrong thing. Blah, 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 blah. They're not going to say it that way. They say, oh, why don't you go over there and try that? Why don't you go over there and try that? Why don't you talk to this person? They'll guide you, right? It will always be positive. All right. So obviously, the more you follow your guidance, the easier life is, right? If you're on the right path, you do the right thing, you get the guidance and follow it, it opens the door for the next path. And it's easier, easier. You trust it more, you trust it more, you trust it more, right? So it's always going to be positive. So the tricksters often like to give us positive messages or information up front because they want us to trust them, right? So they'll give us something, and yay, it's correct or it's true. But then they give us something else down the road that is either negative sounding, or we're like, that is not, that doesn't sound right. And if you don't have that discernment, you follow it, and that could lead you down the wrong path. And in my travels, I have lost many friends through that method. And some are no longer here with us on earth. They followed the wrong path because they were not discerning. They think just because they're psychic or intuitive that no matter what comes through is legit, and that is not true whatsoever. It must always be positive. No matter what you're doing, it must always be positive.
As you talk about that, like I have flashes of, memories of people who unfortunately did that, in my life experience, where they gave you something that made you believe, oh my God, they're super powerful, they're super helpful, they're a super healer, they're super good. And then before you knew it, they created this web in which for me, like I felt like, oh my God, why is everything going wrong? Why do I feel like I'm sinking? Why do I feel like crying all the time?
Right.
And I saw those same spiritual teachers transcend or just pass on, right? I don't know if
Right.
they transcended or what happened, but they definitely moved on from this life existence during COVID. But
Yeah.
there was always a knowing, there was always some kind of message, there was always something that was saying, think about this, or,
Yeah.
question this, or, and I refused because I really had put blinders on. When you give your heart and you give your trust, and yeah, but when that betrayal happens, and when you realize, oh, and you take the blinders off,
Yeah.
then it's that point of no return.
Yeah.
It's there's no, because how do you then trust someone like that again, right? If people are capable of either manipulating your field or blocking your field or taking from your fields, and not, if you're looking out for the best interests of others and they are not doing the same for you, then there's a short change, right? Then there's an imbalance that's created.
A lot of times, people will, some are subconscious, but some will deliberately drain your energy. So they might be people that touch a lot. So, a lot of times when we're talking to someone, we might touch their arm or their shoulder or look them in the eye. I mean, everyone does that, okay? But these are people that will like rub your arm or your hand a lot, or put their arm around your neck or shoulders a lot. And then you don't feel well later on. They're draining your energy. We call them energy vampires, right? They're draining your energy, and some are deliberately doing it, right? Some are just conscious about it.
Yeah, some people don't realize that they're draining people's fields. And then some people really do it intentionally because they don't have their own supply. And so they need it. So they take it from others.
Yeah. And again, once I know that there's somebody like that, I'm like, back off in my mind. I don't need that. I want to keep my energy as high and as light as possible. Right.
Exactly. Beautifully said. So
Yeah.
for those who are watching, tap into your senses. How do you feel around certain teachers, healers, doctors, you know, people in your circle? Do you get a headache? Do you feel tired after you interact with them? Do you feel heavy? Do you get moody? Do you start feeling pain in your back or your lower back, right? It often presents in upper, like shoulder blade area, or in the lower back region area, because our kidneys get affected. And so it can radiate downward into your like lower back, or even like feeling like sciatic type pain and stuff like that. So, do you, after being with certain people, do you trip? Do things happen? Do you lose things? Do you injure yourself? Because that happens too, right?
It
That,
totally does. Totally does. And I call those attacks. Okay. So if I'm tripping a lot, or if I break glass, especially, I'll be in the kitchen, and it's like, I'm nervous and jerky. We'll put it that way. I'm not smooth like I normally am. I know I'm being attacked.
yeah.
And then what I clear myself. All right. Um, so I'm not sure what viewers know about that, but you can say a command to clear yourself, or you can do like an energetic thing, like swiping your energetic field around your body, your aura, and say clearing it and setting it up to God or source, however you want to call it. There's lots of methods, but I will clear myself multiple times because I know that I've been attacked. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have some simple ways that I teach in class. I try to prep my students to kind of clean their field. So I'll have them paste baking soda on their body from the neck down, leave it on for a few minutes. And it can, on a lighter level, reset your field, but probably I feel that it's even more intense than like sea salt, right? Some people will do Epsom salt baths or sea salt baths. When you paste on baking soda and you leave it on for a good 5 minutes in the shower and then you rinse it off, it's like your energy comes back. You
Right.
feel revitalized. Certain body aches disappear, because not all pain is physical. A lot of pain that we get is of an energetic nature.
Yeah.
And so, these are some things that the more we realize that we are energetic beings, the easier life is going to become. And yes, we then have to kind of decipher between, okay, who's draining my field versus who's adding and exchanging in a positive, who's bringing positivity, right? And those kind of, as you raise your frequencies that are lower, they shed, they disappear out of your, and it's not always easy to say goodbye to people that you've cared for, but
Yeah. Yeah. But if you know that they're not going to change their ways, they're not going to, like, like you said, you raise your vibration, you're less likely to interact with them anyway. They're no longer attracted to you. You're no longer attracted to them. You're like on different planes of existence. You have to have one foot in the material world to live and the other foot in the spiritual, genre, if you will. Uh,
exactly.
you can tune in, you have that discernment, you have the intuition, and it will help you progress in your life if you use that to your advantage, right?
And we're in this period of disclosure, and disclosure is happening, publicly, but disclosure is happening on a very personal level too, where
Mm-hmm.
things that we weren't willing to see or couldn't see before are starting to show themselves. And there's an adjustment for each one of us as these things begin to become clearer or more revealed. We have to make decisions around that. And they're not always easy decisions to make, but they're decisions nevertheless. It's like what's weighing us down versus what's raising us up. That's why I love the work that you're doing, Sue, and the expo that you're going to be hosting, at the beginning of August in the Panhandle, because you in that work and with the speakers that are going to be present are helping people take the blinders off to what's really going on in the world. What have we been blinded to? What have they distracted us from seeing? And, how do we navigate life from a different perspective? How do we begin to assimilate these alternative realities, if you will? There's so many layers to what is unfolding before our eyes in terms of what we thought is good for us and what we thought is the right path for us versus what the options are that may just lead us in a much better direction. So share a little bit with us about the expo and what do we get to learn there? What are people going
It's
to
going to be fabulous. So first of all, the website for more info is awakenedstories.com/expo. It's August 1st and 2nd, 2026 at the Destin Fort Walton Beach Convention Center. That's on Okaloosa Island, white sand and clear turquoise water. So if you come, please make a vacation of it. It is stunning here. I swim as much as I'm able to. I live about a mile from the beach. Very excitingly, we have holistic vendors, and then we have very unique speakers. So we have JP coming. So many of you follow JP. We have David Adair coming. We have Anthony Zender, Super Soldier, coming. We have, and I'm blanking out right now, King Smarty is coming to speak. We have a couple meditations leading off the whole weekend, one with Kimberly Kay and one with Deanna Carr. And the whole weekend is going to be based about disclosure. So some of these speakers that we have been to Area 51. They have interacted with extraterrestrials here on Earth. They've been to various sites on Earth where there are artifacts and or, again, ET artifacts, been to inner Earth. So they're going to tell their stories for us. It's going to be awesome. Julian Brown will be coming. He's an inventor of plastic to fuel. He's fabulous.
wonderful? I'm excited.
So August 1st and 2nd in Destin, Florida. And again, tickets are available at awakenstories.com. I have people coming from all over the world to see these speakers. They're a very unique blend, right? They've all had their experiences. Some are whistleblowers, some are super soldiers. very unique experiences that you're not going to get really in one little package anywhere else.
Give yourself the opportunity to see the world from a different lens. And you might just discover that there's so much more that's going on, and there's so much more that we are and that we can become or awaken, reawaken in ourselves and live a much more fuller, evolved existence within this human body. We don't have to wait to transcend. We can evolve within this human existence.
And I thank you for inviting me on your show. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you all for another segment of Beyond the White Coat. Stay tuned. Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you again.